We're here with Colonel Brian Johnson from the 601st Air Operations Center at Tyndall Air Force Base. They have a very important mission, protecting us, from air attack, from people who would do us harm. But they have one other thing that they do around the holiday season. And what's that, Colonel Johnson?
Well, this time of year we get very excited about the opportunity to track Santa as he visits kids throughout the world and delivers toys.
No, wait a minute. Santa's real?
Absolutely, he's real.
Okay, and you guys track him. How do you do that?
We do. Well, NORAD has been around for a long time. About 1958 was when it was formed between the U.S. and Canada, and it's for the air defense of the United States and Canada, for all of North America. And they formed that agreement back in the Cold War days, and they had lots of radar systems they set up to detect aircraft or missiles that would be flying toward the United States and Canada. What they discovered, quite by accident, was when Santa takes off from the North Pole, they actually could track him as he starts his journey throughout the world. And we've kept up that tradition through today.
Because basically he's flying through our airspace, and you guys have to keep track of everything that flies in our airspace.
That's correct. We keep track of everything that approaches North America. Both we do airspace warning, airspace control, and we do maritime warning as well. So we do keep track of some of the ship traffic up at NORAD. They do that mission as well. But primarily here at Tyndall, we look at the air tracks that are coming from outside North America and making sure that they're identified properly, that we know who they are, and we've got lots of partners around the world that we cooperate with to accomplish that mission.
I understand Santa's going to get a fighter escort.
He probably will. We try and do that when he does come to the U.S. and Canada. Typically, the Canadians will go up and meet him with the CF-18 Hornets, and the United States, we have F-15s, F-16s, and F-22s. They usually just go up and say hi, kind of tip the wing to him as he approaches.
Well, it's good that they have him under protection, too, because you never know. There's bad guys out there that may not like Christmas. And they may not like Santa.
that could be.
I mean, they're out there. You know they are.
He's been pretty safe for a long time, but we'll help him out if we can.
Well, that's awesome stuff. Now, what else goes on out there at the 601st?
Well, I mentioned that we do the aerospace control and air sovereignty for all of North America. Now here we have the continental United States NORAD region. So we have 3 different regions in NORAD, which is a North American Aerospace Defense Command. There's an Alaska NORAD region, the Canadian NORAD region, and we are the continental U.S. NORAD region. So we have 2 air defense sectors that work for us as well, the Eastern Air Defense Sector out in New York and the Western Air Defense Sector. And
they're all involved in tracking Santa, right? I mean, everybody has a part of this, right?
Absolutely.
So even the Eastern Air Defense Sector up there in Rome, New York, they're going to keep an eye out for Santa. And also in the Western Air Defense Sector out there in Tacoma, Washington, they'll be keeping an eye out for him, too.
Absolutely. As he approaches the U.S. From the east, typically, is where he comes from. We don't really know for sure where he's going to be going. He doesn't coordinate with us, but we typically can track him as he's coming toward the U.S. So they'll be picked up initially by EADS, and they'll be passed out to WADS as he passes over the Mississippi River.
After this break, I want you to tell us how we can watch Santa at NORAD. I know there's a way to do that now.
Absolutely.
And we'll be back right after these messages. Welcome to Waking Up with Don. This morning we're waking up with Denise Clubs. Denise is a licensed marriage and family counseling specialist or therapist?
A therapist.
Therapist,
yes,
okay.
Yes.
Denise, tell me, what makes you a licensed therapist?
Many years of hard work prior to actually sitting for a state exam. I'm licensed as a marriage and family therapist, and I'm also licensed in the state of Florida as a mental health counselor.
You know, so we're here at New Cornerstone in Panama City, and this is where your business is.
Correct.
Of counseling. Holiday season's here.
Yes.
You know, people associate the holiday season with a lot of great things. I mean, Christmas, the holidays, and everybody's having fun. But there's also a lot of shopping and preparation and cooking, and there's a thing we call holiday stress.
Correct.
What do you attribute that to?
We, as individuals, I think, tend to take on too much. We have our ideas of tradition. We have our ideas of what we're going to do. We have certain expectations that a lot of people actually set pretty high. There are.
You mean like people want to have the ideal, perfect Christmas?
Exactly.
So they work very, very hard to make it happen.
Right, right. And then they also have traditions that go on in the families, and they try to bring those and continue with those. The tough part is sometimes those traditions don't always need to be carried on or brought forth. And what I encourage folks to do is to actually make their own traditions.
well, families change over time.
That's right.
And people don't want to give that tradition up sometimes.
Right.
Like in my wife's family, there was a tradition of a 7-fish dinner on Christmas Eve.
Wow.
7 different types of fish. That could include
Wow.
lobster tail or shrimp or, so there's a lot of preparation for a 7-fish dinner.
Yes.
If you have a house full of people.
Right.
Of aunts and uncles and cousins and all that stuff. Now, if it's just your family, the 4 of you, why would you go through all that and put yourself through it?
Correct. And that's a good reason to think, to second guess in terms of questioning yourself, looking at, do we need to do that this year? If we do, what are we going to do about that? You shared something that was very interesting, is you touch on, if it's a small family, but what if you're traveling somewhere and you're going up north or you're going across country or going overseas? That takes extra preparation, because not only are you having to prepare for that as well as adding to that stress, but then prepare for making sure you still have the 7-fish dinner at that place. Women tend to be, I'm not going to say generalized all across the board, okay, but a lot of women with the nesting ability also take on the responsibility of the details. What's going on in the various, checklists, a lot of lists, a lot of things going on, and they want to, if there's children involved, they want to be able to recreate maybe some of those positive holiday feelings that they had when they were younger.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because everybody wants their kids to be happy.
Exactly.
You want to have a big surprise.
Yes.
And what dad hasn't put a bike together on Christmas Eve?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or some other type of a toy.
Yeah.
To be able to make that child have a smile on their face the next morning.
But it can be very stressful. And I think the key, and you're the expert, but I think the key is perspective, don't you think?
Oh, I do. I think the key to life in anything, I believe, is perspective, in terms of how you frame your ideas, the things that you want to have happen, your expectations, and it's all about what you think.
Yeah, because I see some preparations in some households, and it is like a moonshot, getting ready for a moonshot. Here comes Christmas, oh my God, invitations got to go out, we got to do the shopping, we got to decorate the house. I mean, there's a lot. There
is. So what I encourage a lot of folks to do is to reevaluate that. How do we, do we need to do all those decorations? One example is my son, when he was younger, really began to enjoy putting the Christmas village together. And so we purchased a few items, and then he was able to spread that out. And through the years, we would get him another village item, to the point now he has so many village items. And what's interesting is he's recognizing, since he's been off to college and just recently graduated, Mom, I don't have time to put the village together. I said, that's fine, don't worry about it. He does, though, want to, because he thinks that's his tradition for him, and I'm telling him, don't worry about that. It's okay. Or downscale it. Why did we make it so big? Put a small village out. You can look at it from the empty nest standpoint. A lot of times what will happen is I've helped individuals to look at, okay, what are some other options? Tell me about your friends in the area, your church, your synagogue, what people that you hang out with, and what else can you do? Is there a possibility that you can go to where your child is and travel and downscale some of the things that you used to do, but know that I think one of the most important things is just being with a loved one.
Right.
And just recognizing it can be so simple. It doesn't have to be as grandiose as we sometimes make it in our mind.
You're Waking Up with Don. We'll see you on the other side of this break. Welcome to Waking Up with Don. Today we're waking up at the Bay County Sheriff's Office, and we're speaking with Paul Vecker. He's an inspector, and he knows all about scams and scammers. Paul, thanks so much for having us in today. Appreciate
Pleasure.
it.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's the holiday season.
Right,
People
sir.
are out there shopping. They're using their credit cards, just spending money. They're parking with stuff in the car and everything. What do we need to do to protect ourselves?
Well, one of the things that we highly recommend is during the holiday seasons, everybody's got a bunch of credit cards on their person. And we have a meeting here with several business people and also bankers of the community here in Bay County. And so far we've accumulated about 250 members. And one of the things that we have brought up is to make sure the general public is aware of the difference between a regular credit card and a debit card. And let me explain to you what I mean by that. We always tell people a debit card is your money. A credit card is the bank's money. So we tell people that if you're using a debit card, which a lot of people do, and they use them at service stations, gas stations, convenient food stores, or going through a drive-through window to purchase food for lunch, breakfast, whatever it may be, not to use the debit card.
Why not?
Well, the reason being is when you use a debit card at a service station, you don't know whether or not there may be a skimmer inside the gas pump. You don't know if the person that is...
A skimmer? What's a skimmer?
A skimmer is an item that they put inside there, and when you put your credit card in there and put the PIN number in there and all that, what it does, it translates that information through a series of items, and it downloads that information, and those people can use that against you. And what happens is you can go back home, let's say wherever you live, if you're visiting down South Florida and you've been to a service station or a convenient food store, and unbeknowing the owner or the clerk doesn't know that that skimmer has been put in there by a company or a service operator, what happens is the money is taken out of your checking account and you don't have any money.
So let me see if I got this right.
Your account is completely cleaned out.
So you can go to what you think is a legitimate business.
A legitimate business,
You
correct.
make a purchase using your debit card.
Right, sir.
Some nefarious character has installed a skimmer into their system. He reads the magnetic strip, gets all your information, and then he's empowered to empty out your bank account.
And that has happened here. We had a lady years ago, came from Miami, Florida, to the world's most beautiful beaches, and she went shopping. The family went to different restaurants, etc. And by the time she got home back to Miami, a week later, she learned that her debit card had been used and was completely wiped out of $9,700. So what I'm saying to you is you have to be very, very careful. And what we did with this particular individual is we backtracked all the information where she went to eat, etc. And fortunately, someone had called the Bay County Sheriff's Office. We got information about what had occurred, and the individual had what they call a skimmer. And I'm going to show you that skimmer right here. This is a skimmer which is purchased on the internet. You can get these for $55 or $79. There's some that are much better than this one here. This is a standard $55 one you can get on the internet. And what that does is when you take your debit card or credit card and you pass it through there on that magnetic strip, okay, it's got all your information on there. And what they do is they take that information to a computer, such as a laptop. Somebody can be sitting in the car. They download that information and they sell that information depending on the monies that might be in the account, between $5 or $50. And a lot of it goes to Russia, by the way, via the internet. And they sell that information via the internet for $50 to $100, $20, depending on the situation.
So they're not really just stealing your money, they're stealing your information and selling it.
And they're selling it
to someone else who will steal your money.
And they're selling it via the internet, that's correct. And the person's not any wiser. And that's why we tell a lot of young people, we tell grandparents and parents to tell their children when they go off to college or university that if they have a debit card, do not use that at these locations such as fast food. Because once that person has physically taken your debit card and walks away, you no longer have control. You don't know where he or she is going with your debit card. And they can just use a skimmer, take your information, and that get back a day or two later, guess what? You're out of money. The other thing that we highly recommend people to do during the holiday season, especially a lot of the women, a lot of women carry their Social Security card. We always tell people, why do you carry your Social Security card? Put it in a safe place at your home. You don't need to carry your Social Security card for any reason whatsoever. We do have elderly people sometimes saying, well, when I go to the doctor's office, they require me, if I'm on Medicare or something like that, to present my Social Security card. Well, then take it with you if you need it for that particular day. But don't take your Social Security card with you. Even men should not carry their Social Security card because you know what your number is, okay? 2, do not carry a bunch of credit cards on your person. Take only those credit cards that you need to go inside the grocery store because you know how much money you have on your credit card. You know, use the one that you are going to use, that you know you've got enough money to pay for the item, and use that with it.
Got to run off to a commercial. Let's
Absolutely.
talk more about that on the other side of these messages. You're watching Waking Up with Don. Wake up. Welcome back to Waking Up with Don. We're talking with Colonel Brian Johnson from the 601st Air Operations Center about how you can help track Santa. How do kids do this? I mean, how can we look over your shoulder and see how, if you're doing your job right, tracking Santa and making sure he makes his rounds?
Sure. Well, I mentioned before that we have radars that are set up all around the North American continent, and they feed into the air defense sectors, which comes down into the Air Operations Center. Obviously, we can't put those out to the general public, so what we do is that's all translated into a website, which is www.noradsanta.org. If you go to that website, you can see all kinds of great stuff. There's games on there. There's a different game every day. There's lots of information about NORAD, information about Santa, sleigh, and everything that you can imagine on there. But there's also a way that people can watch some videos, and they can actually see where Santa is throughout his journey as he travels the world.
So on Christmas Eve, we can click, 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 and see what's going on and see Santa making his rounds.
Absolutely, and that's just one way that you can track him. There's also a phone number that you can call. You can call 1-877-HI-NORAD, and you'll get one of the volunteers. I'll answer the phone, and they'll give you.
You mean one of the elves?
Well, no, it's actually going to be one of the military personnel
Okay.
in NORAD. They volunteer their time during this time of year. There's about 1,250 people that go into the effort, all volunteer time. They come in on their days off, just so they can answer the phones, tell kids where Santa is, and they'll also answer emails as well. And that email address is noradtrackssanta@outlook.com. So if you send an email, you'll get a response, and they'll let you know where he is, or you can call them on the phone, and they'll answer your question.
Isn't technology great? Because now we can have maximum contact with Santa. We can watch him at noradsanta.org. We can watch him do his rounds. We can send him an email, and we can even call and get an update from the people at NORAD as to where he is.
Absolutely, and if you've got a smartphone, there are also apps out there that you can download. Just go to whatever your app store is, and you can just search for NORAD Track Santa, and you can download an app, and you can get the same information that way.
I don't want you to give up any military secrets or anything, but how does he get down that skinny chimney?
Well, just like kids have to be sleeping before Santa actually arrives at the house, if you try and watch what Santa does, he won't do it. So we've had spies out there that have tried to look and see how exactly he gets down the chimney. We've never actually been able to observe that. Our intel guys have been working this for years, and they haven't come up with a good answer yet.
Because he's a pretty chubby guy.
He's a pretty good sized guy.
And some of these chimneys are pretty small.
Yeah, they are. Now, that's not the only way he can get into a house, of course. So, we don't want the kids to get nervous. So if there's, no chimney on your house, it's okay. But if you think about when the reindeer come in and they land on the roof, the closest way into the house is going to be the chimney. He's got a lot of houses Christmas Eve, so he's got to get around as quickly as he can. Quickest way is down through the chimney, but if you don't have one, he can still use doors.
Is he going to go to other places, like say in the Middle East? Is Santa going to make it to the Middle East?
Absolutely, and that's something that you can track. Starting in the morning on Christmas Eve, of course, Santa travels, nighttime. He typically arrives, somewhere between 9 o'clock at night, maybe midnight, maybe a little bit later at night, depending on how late the kids stay up. But he travels throughout the world. So obviously he's going to start off at the North Pole, typically travels down through the Pacific. The elves, or I'm sorry, not the elves, but the reindeer are a little tired of all the cold. So typically he's going to go down to the South Pacific where it's a little warmer.
Okay.
Okay, they get warmed up a little bit. They'll go back up into Asia, cool off a little bit there. They'll go back down into Southern Asia and Europe and down into Africa, and they kind of crisscross the world throughout that.
Does he
throughout those
file
paths.
a flight plan with you guys?
No, he doesn't. He's been doing this for a long time, and he kind of goes where he wants to go. I'm not exactly sure, how he decides the exact routing that he's going to take, but we try and watch him, and we've got some great partners with the Federal Aviation Administration, so we'll give them some updates as well. They can kind of clear all the air traffic out of his way just to make his trip as quick and painless as possible.
You're watching Waking Up with Don, and I'm speaking with Colonel Brian Johnson from the 601st Air Operations Center at Tyndall Air Force Base. Welcome back to Waking Up with Don. On this Christmas Eve, we have Rachel Perry back and her magical harp. Enjoy.